At last, the elections are here. Let's turn out en masse on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as President of Nigeria for a renewed hope and a better Nigeria. Vote APC, the party that shows a broom.
I can't believe it's been 10 years already, but in that very short time, Arise News has covered some of the biggest global events around the world, and I'm fortunate to say that I've been involved in a number of them, including, of course, the insurrection that took place right behind me at this building that brought America to its knees. But in addition to that, we've also covered some of the biggest stories, including the transitions of U.S. presidents, as well as other massive major global events that have occurred around the world. And we've done them right here at Arise News. And I'm so happy to say that I've been a part of them. And I look forward to being a part of Arise News, its growth, its change, and of course, its coverage over the next 10 years.
Good morning. You are watching the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati.
And I'm Rafai Hosseini. We've got a great show lined up for you for the next 3 hours, so sit back, relax, and let's kickstart your day because the morning show begins right now.
The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says the federal government will obey an order of the Supreme Court, which ordered a suspension of the deadline for the swap of old to new Naira notes by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Speaking on the telephone with Arise News, Malami said, although the government is dissatisfied with the ruling, it will comply with the order as a demonstration of the government's commitment to the rule of law. The Attorney General of the Federation said his office has filed a preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the court. Meanwhile, while the federal government is dissatisfied with the ruling, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, and Governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, have expressed satisfaction with the Supreme Court ruling over the cash swap policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. However, hundreds of aggrieved youths converged in Abuja on Wednesday to protest against the Supreme Court ex parte order, temporarily halting the move by the federal government to ban the use of old Naira notes of 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira denominations from February 10, 2023. The protesters who stormed the headquarters of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the office of the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, in the central area of Abuja, passed a vote of confidence on the Apex Bank, urging it not to back down on the currency swap policy. Joining us later on this show to further analyze the ruling of the Supreme Court and the compliance of the federal government is Robert Clark, an elder statesman and senior advocate of Nigeria.
Moving things along, we shall also be engaging Akin Oshitokun, Director General of Peter Obi Campaign Council, and Shola Ebisheni, Southwest Zonal Coordinator, Labour Party, and Secretary General Afeni Ferry on tomorrow's Labour Party mega rally in Lagos, and their right of reply to Nasir El-Rufai's comments on Peter Obi. Also joining us later on the show to discuss passport index quarter in first quarter 2023 and implications for Nigeria and options available is toward WellClean, Henley and Partners Group, managing partner UK Nigeria. We'll also catch up on news making headlines across the globe. Rotu Sodiri gives us updates on Africa business activities across the continent. Aaron Akirjala will be taking us through sporting activities across the globe. We'll also review today's newspaper with a rising analyst Mola Feni. While Ojo will fill us in on what's trending around the world. It's going to be all that and a whole lot more today on The Morning Show. Right, welcome back to The Morning Show right here on the Rising News Channel. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says the federal government will obey an order of the Supreme Court which ordered the suspension of the deadline for swap of the old Naira notes by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Malami says although the government is dissatisfied with the ruling, it will comply with the order as a demonstration of government's commitment to the rule of law. The AGF says his office has filed a preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the court.
An interim order was granted by the Supreme Court, and that order was to lapse on Wednesday, which incidentally is equally a date fixed for the hearing of the motion on notice. So in line with that position in mind, we have taken steps to file an objection challenging the jurisdiction of the court to entertain the matter. Jurisdiction on the ground that when you talk of monetary policy, regardless of the character they take, central bank is an indispensable and necessary party for that matter. What we have at hand is a situation whereby the central bank is not joined as a party. And if the central bank as an institution is joined as a party, the position of the law is clear that the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court cannot be properly invoked. So we have given consideration to diverse issues, inclusive of the issues of jurisdiction, and come Wednesday, we'll argue the case from that perspective, among others. I think what we are talking about is not whether the ruling is binding or is not binding. We are talking about what we intend to do. There is no doubt about the fact that the ruling of the Supreme Court, regardless of the prevailing circumstances, is binding. And then, within the context of the rule of law, you can equally take steps that are available to you within the context of the spirit and circumstances of the rule of law. And what we are doing, in essence, is compliance with the rule of law, both in terms of obedience to the ruling and in terms of challenging the ruling by way of putting across our own side of the story, putting across our case, challenging the jurisdiction. So the issue of obedience to the ruling of the Supreme Court is out of it. We are wholeheartedly in agreement that naturally we are bound by it and that we will comply accordingly. But within the context of compliance, challenging the ruling by way of filing an application or by way of challenging it and seeking for it to be set aside is a different thing. It is all about the rule of law. The rule of law provides that there has to be obedience to the judgment and orders of the Supreme Court will operate in obedience. The rule of law provides that when you are now not happy with a ruling, you can now file an application, among others, for setting aside, and in compliance with the right and privileges vested in us as a government. We are equally looking at it from the perspectives of challenging the order and seeking for it to be set aside. So it is all about the rule of law. Rule of law relating to obedience and compliance. Rule of law relating to filing an application seeking for the judgment or orders to be set aside. We are operating within the context of the rule of law anyway.
Okay, that's about you. A lot to break down.
Well, does the Attorney General of the Federation, does he have a choice in the matter? I don't think so. as the chief law officer of the Federation, he is obliged to defend the rule of law. So when the Attorney General of the Federation says he's going to respect the rule of law, then of course, there's no question about it. That's the way it has been. People will think that this is a big deal because previously, even the office of the Attorney General of the Federation had been accused of disregarding decisions of court. But in this particular case, the Supreme Court is the apex court. Its decision is final. And so where will you go beyond the Supreme Court? It's only the Supreme Court that can reverse itself in any matter whatsoever. So it's good to hear that the rule of law is what is motivating the Attorney General of the Federation. And that, in other cases, we also hope that the office of the Attorney General of the Federation will take exactly the same position. Now, beyond all of this, he also alluded to the grounds on which they are going to back to the Supreme Court. The hearing is for February 15. And the key issue, the key questions that have been raised is one, whether or not the Supreme Court has jurisdiction over the matter. And the argument that Ghazali and Magaji, both SAN, who are representing the Attorney General of the Federation, are putting up, is that by not joining the CBN as a necessary party in the matter, the jurisdiction of the CBN, of the Supreme Court, is limited in this particular instance. Now, there have been many arguments in this regard. I've seen people saying, look, the CBN, in exercising its functions, under the CBN Act of 2007, sought approval from the president, who has executive powers of the Federation under Section 5 of the Constitution. And to that extent, the powers of approval given to the president under Sections 4 sub 3 of the CBN Act, Section 6 of the CBN Act, Section 19 of the CBN Act, and Section 20 subsection 3 of the CBN Act will seem to indicate that the necessary party in the case is the president who is exercising executive powers of the Federation. And hence, that's why the Attorney General of the Federation is the sole respondent in the matter. But we will see how that question is resolved. The other question is that the learned silks, they are arguing that the states did not show necessary course of action. In other words, they've not been able to demonstrate how they've been affected in this regard. It's also for the court to look into that. But their own lawyers, the plaintiff's lawyers, had argued before the Supreme Court that the policy execution was causing problems in their respective states. And so to that extent, are they suffering damage or not? Number three, the learned silks are also arguing whether or not the matter should have been instituted first at the Federal High Court. Could it be that it is the Federal High Court that has exclusive jurisdiction over this particular matter within the purview of Section 251 of the Constitution? That's also another question for the court to determine. And then, of course, they are also asking whether within the purview of Section 17, 18, 23, whether the CBN, whether the Supreme Court can inquire into the CBN performing its statutory functions under the law. When they go to court on Wednesday, I think February 15 is Wednesday, they've already filed a notice of preliminary objection. So the court will look into it. The court can either reverse itself, or the court can give an order that the president of Nigeria should withdraw his approval. The court can do as it deems. But what is established is that nobody can just ignore the rule of court. As Femi Falana SAN argued in an opinion yesterday, quoting Nikitobi JSC as it then was, in AG Lagos versus AG Federation. If you don't respect the rule of court, that will amount to provocative contempt. Contemptuous of court, and the office of the Attorney General of the Federation cannot be seen to be contemptuous of the bench, or particularly of the Supreme Court, because that will translate into anarchy. So it's a good thing that they have filed their objection and they will go there, they will respect the rule of law. But what is the meaning of respecting the rule of law? Because the Attorney General was also quoted as saying that in any case, the ruling expires on February 15. But on February 15, I hope the federal government, through the Office of the Attorney General, gets his day in court.
First, I think because of this conundrum, there needs to be a position paper. Because when you check hitherto what the CBN put out, it was supposed to cease to be a legal tender on the 10th. Then there was a grace period until the 17th to be able to put the notes in, to be able to foster, digital processing of excessive cash and things like that. And people have also been picking up these notes. So what is the position paper now? Because there was an hitherto position that I referred to yesterday by some of the lawyers in the CBN. It was out there, but the CBN can, allude to that or debunk that they were not joined in the suit. So we need to have a comprehensive position paper as regards this. Secondly, the different points of argument here will be about majorly the jurisdiction. And a lot of people have argued, like you said, Dr. Pati, that this should have originated from the Federal High Court. Because in a similar suit, to tell the federal government not to stop, to continue with the dates, not to halt the date, that was filed by 4 political parties. That was filed in the Federal High Court. And that suit was there before the Supreme Court ruling was gotten by the 3 governors. Also, as regards the course of action, there have been rebuttals by other governors. Governor Obaseki came out today and said that Governor El-Rufai cannot speak for the generality of states in Nigeria, that for them, it doesn't affect those states. And also, in exploring the course of action, the question will be, what will be the hardship effect on the citizens of the state? What will be the knock-on effect? Because predominantly, if we want to extrapolate, the only states we've had crisis, I'm not sure any of these states have had any riot or crisis. It's just been in Ondo, Ogun, predominantly, and a couple of other states. But it is for the court to determine, the course of action. Also, I think this will also, bring about the conversation on the independence of the CBN. Because as regards this policy, yes, there's an independence of the CBN, but there was a caveat in the CBN Act that talks about the fact that you have to get a nod of the president to be able to do monetary policy. So the question is, was it partial independence or full independence? I mean, there's a lot that can be said on this case, but we'll take a short break now. And when we return, we'll have Road to Diri to give us updates on global and Africa business activities. Stay with us.
Fellow Nigerians, all our best hopes for Nigeria are achievable. By every measure, Nigeria can be a better, stronger country. We can be a nation at peace, a place of shared prosperity where everybody is somebody, and equal justice under the law is enjoyed by all our citizens. In a few weeks, our country will go to the polls to elect political leaders and a president to lead our nation for the next 4 years. This is the most consequential election of our time. And we have it in our power to make the choice that allows us to achieve the grand possibilities of what Nigeria can be. Our path to greatness lies in recognizing the abiding truth that in a time of promise and peril such as this, the best thing we can do for Nigeria is to elect a leader with an established track record of achievement who has proven time and again his ability to triumph through adversity and succeed against the odds. In this election, that man is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now let me tell you about Asiwaju. This majestic yet profoundly imperfect democracy we have today is the legacy of men and women who in the years after 1999 used the instruments of law, politics, media, and advocacy to keep this country from becoming a one-party state dominated by the personality cult of one individual. Asiwaju was at the forefront of that effort in every way. At the same time, he was governor of Lagos State, Nigeria's smallest and most populous state, a beacon attracting talent and ambition in droves. As governor, Asiwaju initiated and implemented reforms that have allowed the state to continue to develop and thrive despite its unique challenges. No candidate in this election has a better track record of identifying and elevating talented young people across every walk of life like he can. Our country's political and economic landscape is filled with men and women who have benefited from climbing the ladders of opportunity built by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His campaign for president today is powered by these same people. Fellow Nigerians, our country can be better, and it will be. For that, we need a president who will deliver a new program of democracy, prosperity, and national security. We need a president who will invest in public infrastructure as part of a broader strategy to drive human capital development and create economic opportunity. We need a president whose clarity of vision is untainted by the pervasive cynicism that abounds in this historical moment. We need a man whose extraordinary leadership gifts are evidenced by the abundance of talent he has nurtured through the years and his capacity to overcome challenges in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. We need a leader with uncommon courage and audacity. We need a president who will assemble the best team and empower them to do the hard work of making Nigeria the best it can be. We need a leader whose administration will appeal to the hopes of those who still believe in the dream and promise of one nation, bound in freedom, peace, and unity. A leader who will lift our gaze from the consideration of small things to focus on pursuing and achieving grand ambitions that lift us all and save the future. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the man for the moment. I have seen him through the years, connecting with people from all walks of life, bearing their burdens and paving the way, and testimonies abound in this regard. I invite you to join him on this inspired mission to build a nation where we harness the faith, optimism, and confidence of the Nigerian people to overcome all cynicism, defeat all fear, and achieve the best ambitions we have for ourselves and the country we so love. Thank you, and God bless you, and may He forever bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business, we vote.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
My daughter-in-law, so how are you planning for my son's birthday? You have to cook for her. Do you people have ogirisi there? No. It's okay. Okay, let me call you back. Mama Achiji, okay. Hi, so wait the market. Please pack some ogirisi. Achi, Opo, Azumbasa. I am going to visit my son. My daughter-in-law. It's arranged, but you must use original red oil to prepare the soup. What? It's very scarce. I'll call you back. Mama Chijo, please include Isio Morocco. My daughter-in-law. Everything is now set. But don't forget that gold wristwatch I saw the last time I visited.
With 11 kobo per second calls to all networks, the only thing you run out of are things to say. Get a Glow SIM or dial *777# now.
That's Silk Boo-Boo.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning. Actually starting with global, so I think markets across Europe, Asia, and North America are all focused on the CPI print from the US next week. If you look at what's with Asian stocks, I think it's only the Nikkei 225 over in Japan that was up, which was bolstered by corporate earnings from chip makers. Tech shares, mostly in China, have been down. There's been fears of geopolitical, tensions between the U.S. and China, the balloon thing from last week, and then China pulled out of a subsea cable connection that's supposed to go from Asia to Europe because of some more tensions with the United States. And then they're also worried, of course, about where, I guess, inflation, pretty much the CPI print from next week, even though inflation has been decelerating in the U.S., that's the main fear. But if you look at the MSCI index for Asia Pacific shares, that was also down. I think Asian shares in total are looking at their second weekly loss week on week. We go to Europe, slightly better with Europe. You saw inflation slowing down in Germany, and I think industrial output ticking upwards. Business index, as far as sentiment there, seems to be a bit more optimistic, which to European traders says that the European Central Bank may not have to raise rates as much as they thought. The industrial index on the stock, Euro Stock 600, which is a pan-European index, was actually up. We've seen healthy returns in terms of corporate earnings from BP, although Credit Suisse had a pretty terrible, they're forecasting a pretty bad loss, but they've generally, corporate earnings from Europe are looking up. So they are suggesting that maybe Christine Lagarde, who's been saying that rates will have to continue to rise, maybe they might ease up a bit, because Germany seems to be a bellwether as the largest economy over in Europe. U.S. stocks, they've been kind of mixed as far as the U.S. stocks are concerned. Again, they're looking at what's going to happen with inflation next week. You had Jerome Powell and other Fed officials at different events sounding a bit hawkish this past week, suggesting that the fight against inflation, even though it's decelerating, it could be up. U.S. jobless claims yesterday, I think it was 196,000, came in higher than expected, suggesting that maybe the U.S. economy is starting to cool, suggesting that maybe they may not hike rates as much as they think. But then you contrast that with the comments from Powell and other Fed chair, I think about 3 or 4 of them at different events. So it's a mixed bag with in terms of where U.S. stocks. I think futures this morning are actually pointing downwards, because there's the rate hike fears, and then what happens with inflation next week. Okay, then we go to Europe. Very interesting. Pierre Auduran, who is a popular French energy trader, is saying that Vladimir Putin is losing the energy war. Says here, I think Putin lost the energy war. Very high natural gas and power prices in Europe were extremely bad for the world economy, but now they have come back to a more reasonable level. If gas prices stay here, there will be much less worry about inflation and interest rate rises. There's no more fear of an energy crisis. Now that Europe is getting used to living without Russian gas, why would they ever go back? He's backed by numbers. This guy, his hedge fund, is an energy hedge fund, has performed very well. His energy hedge fund returned 59% in 2021, returned 87% in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine, although I think it's lost about 16 or 17% so far this year because energy prices have retreated. But a benchmark, the gas benchmark in Europe, which was going for about 300 euros per kilowatt hour at the peak of when Russia invaded Ukraine, which is more than 10 times its average, has come down to about 50 euros per kilowatt hour. And if you listen to Ursula von der Leyen, who spoke in Davos, saying that they have actually Europe no longer actually has turned the corner with respect to having to rely on gas. So, the markets are saying that Putin has misfired. And if he's going to now have to rely on selling cheaper oil to an India or cheaper oil to a China. China has reopened. They're supposed to support higher energy prices because of energy demand from China. But if they're buying cheaper oil from Russia, then that's a mixed bag in terms of energy prices. So it's going to be interesting to see how far. But that man, his energy bets so far have turned out well. And he's basically unwound, Pierre Auduran has basically unwound his bets on gas prices because he thinks that basically things have turned the corner. Very interesting. Deutsche Bank in the U.S., they made this U.S. Treasury yield benchmark call. The benchmark Treasury yield is basically, or rather U.S. Treasury yields are basically a benchmark for rates as far as bonds and treasuries are concerned. So they are saying that it's going to be 4.2% this year. We haven't seen 4.2% since November of last year. And if you think of how the relationship between yield and price works, if the yield is climbing, that means the price is falling. If the price is falling, that means that people are selling bonds and treasury yields because they are skittish about where the economy is going. So here you're looking at the Treasury 10-year yield and the federal funds rates, the effective rate, which is a continuous series, and you're looking at them overlaid against each other. You can see the Fed funds rate, that's the line being flat there, and then look at it shooting upwards along with Treasury yields. Deutsche Bank is making a bold call that goes against other bond traders. Bond traders say that the yield is going to fall to 3.4%. So if again, looking at the relationship, if the yield is going to fall to 3.4%, that means that traders are buying bonds because they are more optimistic about where the economy is going. And you have to think about the difference in credit spreads between U.S. bonds, between the benchmark bonds from the government and corporate bonds that are issued by U.S. corporates. So if you are optimistic about the U.S. economy and you think the U.S. economy is going to do well, you will buy more corporate bonds because you think corporates are going to do better. So there's going to be a difference in spread between your corporate bonds and your government bonds. If you are skittish about where the U.S. economy is going, you will buy U.S. government bonds, which will lead to the yield falling, which is where bond investors are saying the yield is going to go to, but it's counter to what Deutsche Bank says. So what I like about this and what is fascinating about this story is that Deutsche Bank is making a bold call about where bond yields are going, which is a call on where they think the U.S. economy is going, which is different from where everyone else is. So again, we're all here. We will see how things turn out. It's February, and they are also saying that, as far as a recession is concerned, it might still happen, but it'll probably be mild. This is the U.S. dollar index and the Fed funds rate. We just showed you the previous chart of the Fed funds rates and where Treasury yields are going. So there, that's it. So now that's climbing up. Treasury yields are climbing. If we go now to the Fed funds rate and the dollar index, that's also been climbing. Although this ends about November 2022, the dollar is still very, very strong. Again, if I link this back to where U.S. markets were feeling as far as the hawkish nature of Jerome Powell and other U.S. Federal Reserve heads, with their hawkish talk, meaning that rates will go up, that is positive for the dollar index. Why is it positive for the dollar index? It means that if rates continue to climb in the United States, the dollar becomes more attractive and more people will demand the dollar, which means the dollar index continues to climb. Commodities are all priced in dollars. That's not good for emerging markets because things, as far as imports are concerned, become more expensive. Speaking of emerging markets, quickly on Nigeria, our stock markets, very, very interesting. It did dip yesterday, 12 basis points, but we've had about a 6 or 7 consecutive bull run on the exchange. We've only had 2 dips so far. The market is up by about 5%, which is very interesting because when you look at Ghana, in January, Ghanaian stocks dropped by about 3 or 4%. Why? Because of Ghana looking for money from the IMF, because of Ghana's revenue issues, because of Ghana's debt. Well, Nigeria has revenue issues, Nigeria has debt issues, and not actually going to the IMF, but it's just interesting how the stocks have been up. So these are just the gainers: logistics, insurance, a bit of IT there in a mix of them. And then finally, Ramaphosa, his very interesting State of the Union address that everybody had been waiting for. So first of all, he's called a state of disaster for the energy sector in South Africa because of what's been going on with the nation. Apparently, he was actually jeered by the members there that were listening to him when he called this energy disaster. He's also appointing an electricity minister, and this electricity minister is supposed to focus solely on ESCOM with respect to where things will go. He's also targeting about 2 trillion rand in investments by 2028. Where he gets the money from, we will see, but it was quite an interesting development there. Now, by the way, ESCOM I was watching local South African television early this morning. NUMSA, along with another union, this actually hasn't even hit the wires yet, so you won't even find the news yet. They announced it this morning. They're actually suing ESCOM. They're suing ESCOM over load shedding. And just to remind everybody, load shedding is where you actually pick and choose which communities you want to supply power to. So whereby community A gets power, but community B does not. shops in South Africa have had to sell meats at lower prices because they're on the verge of getting spoiled. Hospitals are being impacted, businesses in general. So anyway, NUMSA is suing ESCOM over load shedding and saying that they shouldn't load shed. But how are they going to do that? They're also suing them also their tariffs. Remember, I think the tariffs take effect April. I think it's about 18%, but ESCOM wanted 32%. So that's what's going on globally and across Africa.
I mean, great one, Rotus. But the shocking thing is, I'm really excited that Cyril Ramaphosa did focus on ESCOM. In fact, it took about 10 paragraphs in the State of the Union to focus on ESCOM, because ESCOM is in dire straits as we speak. For the very first time, he talked about the thorny issue with ESCOM, which is the debt. About 400, million rand debt. And he's saying he's going to be talking to National Treasury to be able to look at that, what they're going to do about that. Also, he pretty much put forward a 5-point plan for ESCOM. Upscaling of the coal-fire plants, rescaling, looking for renewable and the likes, and optimization of processing, which has always been the problem with ESCOM. And he said all of that, and I tied it together with the fact that he really wants more investment for his country. But how is he going to get that investment by 2028? He's upgrading education. He's putting some more money in infrastructural development, the bridges, highways, and things. He's also exploring potential in the Northern Cape. He's also looking at, industrialization, big deal with the new Port Elizabeth terminal, Auto Port Elizabeth terminal. So he's also looking at those areas. So he's making bold statements as regards how can we infuse ourselves into the economy and do more so that we can open up things, for the South African economy. So that's a great way, to go for him. He's got it all cleared up for the very first time, I think, in many states of the union. Last year's State of the Union was predominantly dominated by COVID-19 conversation, but this is a good one. And I'm happy you're talking about, the Nigerian stock market. Well, what a time, And hey, when you even compare us to Ghana, Ghana to, goodness me, dire straits. Ghana that had to slam a 778 million tax burden on MTN in the bid of looking for money. But,
which they denied, of course.
Which they denied, of course. I mean, that was ridiculous in the first place. We all knew that was ridiculous. But both parties have been able to say that about it. But because of on the international scene, I don't really believe the foreign trader. You know why? Because Europe is paying a lot in subsidies for those gas.
Okay, on Russia, yeah?
On Russia,
okay.
yeah. And they're not factoring that in. Dr. Abati, okay, I think this time.
Okay, first, let me start with the stock market in Nigeria. When you were talking about the markets in Europe, I was saying when will Reuters get to Nigeria? Because 3 days ago, there was a decline or a loss of about 37 billion in that Nigerian stock market. But now you said in the last 24 hours, there's been an improvement.
Well, it fell again, so that was profit taking. So when you have a 6-day bull run and prices rise, profit taking is where you're like, I'll take my profits, and then the market drops. So that's what happened.
But if you say, there's been a little improvement. Let's hope that this year we'll have the same kind of upbeat performance that the stock market had in 2022. Now, but to talk about Cyril Ramaphosa, this is the second State of the Union address we're having this week. On Tuesday, February 7, we were talking about the U.S. president with his State of the Union address. Now, yesterday, it's South Africa giving a State of the Union address.
What is that one?
And just like the U.S., there was also heckling. The thing took place at the, City Hall because, they are renovating their parliament. Now, the economic freedom fighters, politicians, they were heckling President Cyril Ramaphosa. In fact, they had to be ejected from the hall.
Somebody rushed the stage while he was talking.
It was at that point that they were ejected. So the question to ask is, we are reviewing State of the Union address in the U.S., State of the Union address in South Africa. When will Nigeria have State of the Union address?
Thank you, sir.
That's point one. Point two. South Africa will have general elections in 2024.
Yes.
So how much of what the president is talking about is politics? How much of it is real commitment? Because he's talking about load shedding, you call it, the inefficiency of ESCOM. They've been promising they will turn around ESCOM. They've not been able to do so. Even yesterday, the energy minister was saying, from 6 to 8 months. Isn't that familiar? But would they be able to do it? So the president says they will give more funding to ESCOM. He will appoint an electricity person who will be in his office as minister. So would there be a conflict between the office of the minister
and the office
of the energy minister? So it's like having two ministers. So that's the third point. The fourth point here is that in terms of the details, you see that he's populist in his approach. He's talking about providing welfare packages for the people to cushion the effect of inflation. He's talking about food, paying more attention to food. He's talking about, building more dams. He's talking about 2 trillion rand, reserved for infrastructure. Yeah. But the issue here will be in terms of delivery. Would they be able to deliver on a consistent basis? Or will the average South African see an improvement in the electricity sector, which has been a problem in that country since 2008? Yep. And yet, ESCOM is a state unit supervised by the Ministry of Public Enterprises. But the effect is felt negatively by the people because of its lack of efficiency.
His party could be vulnerable 2024. We will never know.
That is why I was trying to link it to the elections. Yeah. Anyway, so it's good to say popular things.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much indeed. We'll take a short break now. And when we return, we'll be talking to Robert Clark, an elder statesman and senior advocate of Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be back.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
There's nothing better than the roar of your fans. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left in the wild, they could be extinct in the next few years. From loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. Please say no to illegal bushmeat, and let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria. Poaching steals from us all.
Every moment matters. Every decision, every moment of courage, every act of kindness, every declaration of war is made by someone, somewhere. Arise Newsnight analyzes the decisions that affect all of our lives.
A very warm welcome to you. This is Newsnight. Every night, we bring you the moments that matter, from the top to the bottom, and in every corner of our country. We bring you a focused agenda from Nigeria Africa, and beyond. Focus on what's important with Arise Newsnight.
Years. I can't believe it, the time has flown so quickly. I didn't join the station until 2014, which marked for me the start of a roller coaster ride covering all the major world news stories. From that time, I went to Ukraine to cover the start of the conflict there. There was the terrorist attacks in Paris. Fast forward to the Trump era, when I covered two major summits between Trump and Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, in Hanoi and Singapore. I also covered the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection in Washington. And more recently, the conflict in Ukraine, which was a profound story for me to cover, documenting the tragedy of that country and portraying the lives of ordinary people affected by conflict in Ukraine. The reason why I enjoy working for Arise News is that, well, first of all, what you see on camera or in the studio is not just the product of my efforts, it's also the efforts of talented producers, directors, tape editors who assemble reports for me, all of those talented people in Lagos and Abuja. The other reason is that Arise News is very much a pioneering station, which means that everyone's making maximum effort to make things work. There's an excitement, there's a joie de vivre about Arise News, even almost 10 years on now. And thirdly, the main reason, I suppose, as a journalist is that I appreciate the trust that management and the chairman put in me as a journalist to assemble a story in my own way and to give objective coverage. In other words, they value my judgment to tell the story properly. So, for all those reasons, I enjoy working for Arise News. Here's to the next 10 years and beyond.
I can't believe it's been 10 years already, but in that very short time, Arise News has covered some of the biggest global events around the world, and I'm fortunate to say that I've been involved in a number of them, including, of course, the insurrection that took place right behind me at this building that brought America to its knees. But in addition to that, we've also covered some of the biggest stories, including the transitions of U.S. presidents, as well as other massive major global events that have occurred around the world. And we've done them right here at Arise News. And I'm so happy to say that I've been a part of them. And I look forward to being a part of Arise News, its growth, its change, and of course, its coverage over the next 10 years.
Knowledge is power. Information is currency. Trust us to tell you what you need to hear. Welcome to the program. You're with Arise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Breaking news, exclusive interviews, unrivaled analysis. It's you, the audience, who drives our agenda. We tell the stories that inform you, the stories that are important to you, and the stories that are about you. We are not every news channel. We are Arise News.
Kai, my people, reason this thing now. When PDP day, our country be safe. Naira strong, economy they grow. Fuel, 87 Naira, rice, 8,000. Our life in better, oh. When change people come, no work, no food, economy for gutter. Naija boro, banditry full town. Japa left and right, Sapa up and down. No need to gamble, same choice. PDP don't come, same choice. Recover Naija, same choice. We don't tire to suffer, same choice. Experience mind, same choice. We don't want experiment, same choice. Get them right, same choice. This is our life, oh, same choice. Recover Nigeria, same choice. Atiku na the man, oh, same choice. Atiku Anokowa, same choice. Na the only choice, oh, same choice.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says the federal government will obey an order of the Supreme Court, which ordered the suspension of the deadline for the swap of old to new Naira notes by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Speaking on the telephone with Arise News, Malami says although the government is dissatisfied with the ruling, it will comply with the order as a demonstration of the government's commitment to the rule of law. The AGF says his office has filed a preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the court. Meanwhile, while the federal government is dissatisfied with the ruling, the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, have both expressed satisfaction with the Supreme Court ruling over the cash swap policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. However, hundreds of aggrieved youths converged in Abuja on Wednesday to protest against the Supreme Court ex parte order. The protesters passed a vote of confidence on the Apex Bank, urging it not to back down on the currency swap policy. Joining us now on this show to analyze the ruling or the position of the Supreme Court, as it were, and the compliance of the federal government is Robert Clark, an elder statesman and senior advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on the morning show.
Good morning, Ruben and Rufai. It's
Morning,
my
sir.
pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. And first time I'm seeing you this year, so Happy New Year to you. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Happy New Year, sir.
Your Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Well, quickly, the issue before us is the position of the Supreme Court granting the ex parte injunction that 3 state governments asked for with regard to the new Naira notes and the CBN policy. And now the federal government, through the Office of the Attorney General, is going back to the same Supreme Court to file a preliminary objection and questioning the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Their key argument is that this case should have begun at the level of the Federal High Court and that the CBN should have been joined in the matter. And having not done that, the CBN has raised the question of jurisdiction. What's your view, sir?
My view is principally this. The federal government has no alternative whatsoever but to accept the judgment of the Supreme Court. Whether it was made out of jurisdiction or within jurisdiction, until that aspect is redetermined by the Supreme Court, the federal government has no alternative than to accept. So the Attorney General is doing the correct thing. However, I am really, really surprised that Attorney General will now say they are challenging that decision of the Supreme Court because it was made out of jurisdiction. Out of jurisdiction on the basis that a party that is a necessary party, which is Central Bank, has not been joined in the suit. I am greatly disappointed with the Attorney General's view. The Attorney General is my son, in whom I have great pride in, but on this occasion, he's flatly wrong in all aspects of this matter. First, joinder or misjoinder of a necessary party, does that create jurisdictional matter to the court? No. Secondly, the Constitution, which is Section 5 of the Constitution, has vested all executive powers to the president. When you sue the principal in a case and you don't bring in the agent, what is your palaver? The federal government is the principal character in monetary matters in Nigeria. The central bank is only an agent of the federal government. The law is clear. Once you sue the principal, you do not need to join an agent. Therefore, I believe that there is no merit in this preliminary objection. It will not be given any meritorious hearing more than the fact that it will be struck out. Thank you.
So there goes the question, what about the independence of the central bank in all of this that has been touted in this conversation?
Thank you very much. The independence of the central bank does not mean that under the law, it does not, take instructions from anybody. The law is clear that however and how be it, the central bank is independent of anybody. It is not independent of the law that creates it. And the law that creates it says it has to take dictation from the president. So where is the dependence? Mr. President, as the sole and only person that can determine all executive matters, is monetary consideration not an executive matter? So where is the independence? The central bank only has independence in deciding to do all those functions that are created under the same law to be done by the central bank. Monetary matters are matters that have many faces. It has its policy, it has its operational, and it has other purposes. So the policy matter has to be determined by Mr. President. Therefore, I don't see where the central bank will say on monetary matters, I and only I can decide. No. That is stretching it too far. Thank you.
One of the things that the counsel for representing the Attorney General of the Federation that they are saying is that the order given by the Supreme Court lapses on February 15, which is when the next date that the court announced. Does that order automatically lapse? And what will be the implication for the injunction that was granted by that court earlier?
You see, interim injunctions, whether from the Supreme Court or from the Court of Appeal or from the federal high courts or state high courts, are limited in the number of days they can stand as the law. One thing you have to admit is that interim that is given ex parte is one of the most illegal actions being taken by courts because they are not hearing the other side. And that, by itself, the Constitution of Nigeria does not permit it. It says in a democracy, when there is a matter, both sides must be listened to. But however, interim orders, even by nature, are, in quote, illegal. The law says, okay, we will cure this illegality by keeping it for only 15 days or 10 days, depending on the whims and caprices of the court. Therefore, the period when the court says, I will listen to the merit of the matter, that period legalizes the legality of the order. And on the day it is being had, the interim order ceases to exist, because the matter now is being had on merit by the court. Therefore, if the court starts listening to it on the 15th, as the Supreme Court has said, there is no illegality continue from that date, because after the hearing, the Supreme Court will make another order, which will satisfy the Constitution and satisfy all litigants.
So, sir, I'll also press this further. Doesn't the law establish the CBN as a statutory body? Because I know there are cases, and many cases, that the CBN had been sued independently of the FG. And there are so many cases there and then. So if that is the case, then let's explore this case of, jurisdiction even further. So is it a case of we can pick and choose now?
You see, the problem with you journalists, and I've been watching all the 3 stations in Nigeria, maybe only channels that has not been prejudiced, that has not been sympathetic to most of these political parties that have been conversing. I am sorry to say this. I do not trust you journalists again during political campaigns, because you allow your leanings to one political party to determine the way and manner you look at issues in Nigeria. Let us be honest, Ruben and my good friend, let us be honest. Have you not suffered from this shortage of Naira? I, Robert Clark, just yesterday issued a check to my bank. They could not pay me. I had to go and buy 100,000 Naira for 125,000 Naira. I've done that twice. Can't you pity people who are suffering if I can be buying at that rate? What about the common man? Look, let us thank God that we have a judgment from the Supreme Court, because God forbid, if not for this judgment from the Supreme Court, this country will be in flames in a week's time. Many of you don't know what is going on.
No, but sir, I asked a question based on the law. Sir, I asked a question based on the law. And sir, there are many rounded views to this, and I take exception to the fact that once we are exploring all rounded views, you say our views are jaundiced because I too am suffering from this. But we have a right to ask questions based on the law. And that's why I asked that, wasn't the CBN set up as a statutory body? And have we not had cases where the CBN has been sued independently of the FG in this case? That's the question I asked, sir.
Look, I quite agree with you. Depending on individual cases, depending on each fact, which have to be looked into. This particular case has only to do with policy. It is not the monetary that you are calling it. It's a question of policy of the federal government or that of the central bank. It has nothing to do with monetary statistics or the no. The federal government says, central bank says, and the law is that, look, if there is a confusion, and is creating more confusion to the public, what should happen? So don't get me wrong. The central bank can be sued in multifarious ways without joining the federal government or any other third party. But what I am telling you now, that the deadline for change of currency is not a central bank monetary policy. Don't let us disturb ourselves with that. This is a policy. Federal government says we are doing it because politicians are going to use money to bribe voters. So it's a policy matter dependent on their own way of looking at things. It has nothing to do with financial prudence.
But was any
So
CBN law
central
broken?
banks cannot take refuge.
But sir, let's go back to the CBN Act. Was any law in the CBN Act broken as regards the timeline stipulated for this change?
Look, forget about legality or non-legalities of this matter. The matter today is what you should concentrate upon. The matter today is that the central bank has given us a limit when we can spend our money or return our money. It's a policy matter. You cannot find that in the Act, the Central Bank Act. This is a policy matter. And the federal government, under the Nigerian Constitution, the president has been given full executive powers on such matters. So if the central bank has a law, you won't find in the law that when you are changing currency, you should give 10 days of. It's not in the law. All these are political matters that delve on policy matters. And we have to look at it. Are these policy matters in line with what we are going through in Nigeria today? The poverty in Nigeria today? How can we rush, surrender our currencies to central bank? We are not getting the new currency. And if we are going to get it, we go to third parties who are trading on it. Please, 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 don't let us look at legality now. This is not a legal matter at all. Stop trading in currency on this date or not this date. It's a pure policy matter which has been dictated by politics. And it has grown to show that two of the political, and that is the day, I know I'm not a politician and I don't trust them, but two of them, some assaulted by force saying that no, it's going to cause hardship. Within hours, one of them said, no, stop it. Tell them to stop it. Look, are they not moving around the whole country? Are they not hearing what people are suffering from? I, Robert Clark in Lagos, with my status, I have been suffering by this policy matter. So it's not a question of legality, whether central bank has sole power or does not have sole power. As I've told you, central bank is an agent of the federal government. So when you are suing central bank and you fail to join them, a misjoinder does not mean that the court that assumes jurisdiction has no jurisdiction, because it is the principle of central bank that is before the Supreme Court. The only thing federal government can do on Wednesday, when they get before the Supreme Court, to say, look, even though I am the principal to central bank, but I want them to be joined in this matter. So the non-joinder in the beginning of the suit does not make the case null and void ab initio. So please, please, let us look at the reality of what is happening in Nigeria today as a result of this policy.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Two quick things. One of the grounds on which the federal government is filing its objection is that no dispute has been established between those three states that went to the Supreme Court to enable them invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And that those states have not shown any reasonable course of action. And here you are, giving us your own experience as a citizen, living in, inside Nigeria and having that experience as a result of this policy. So I'd like you to respond to that. And then secondly, what happens to that other case by the four political parties that took the CBN, the federal government, and 27 commercial banks to the Federal High Court in Abuja, where they got an injunction barring the federal government from extending the deadline further?
Well, thank you very much, Ruben. You are aligning yourself to what Obaseki, His Excellency, let me put that excellency there, saying that he too is a governor of a state and he's not affected by that judgment or that. Look, that is not the law. If only 1 out of 36 governors in Nigeria today feel that there is something wrong in a policy of the federal government, that one state, by law, can singly go to the Supreme Court and sue the federal government. There is no rule that says if governors are suing the federal government to have that original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, all of them must come to court. No, one of them can go to court. So the submission of Obaseki, with due respect to him, is so naive and is unsellable to any well-thinking person because he's not affected. Who tells him he's not affected? Because he's spending government money as he likes? Has he sent his wife to the market? Has he bought Naira the way we are buying it? He has not suffered what we are suffering. How is he saying he's not affected? I am sorry to hear that from him. A man who should defend the people, who is coming back to the people to ask for their votes, said he's not affected by what sufferings Nigerians are going through now. Haba, let him go and think well about that statement. Now, you're talking about the Federal High Court. Normally, as I said, anybody can go to court when it feels his interest has been affected. Now, these 4 or 5 political parties have gone to court and saying that, oh, we are happy with the central bank. Please give us an interim order so that they could not extend the date for submission of swapping of all currencies. They are right. But when you look at the Nigerian constitution, in between the time they filed that one, there was no Supreme Court ruling on the same subject matter. So you can't blame the judge that gave them the order. But if they had waited like today or tomorrow to rush to the same court, the court will tell them that, look, the Supreme Court is seized of the matter. It will be, rascality on my part as a judge to be making an order when there is a subsisting order. So at the time the Federal High Court was hearing this matter, there was no subsisting order. So they made the order correctly. But what will happen is that the day they have adjourned it to, both parties will agree that events have overtaken the ruling of that court because, according to hierarchy of courts, they cannot continue on what the judge said last week because it will be an exercise in vain because the Supreme Court has taken charge. So they will adjourn it until the determination of the case in Supreme Court. So that's what is going to happen. And if the Supreme Court decides one way or the other, they, in the lower court, will be bound by what the Supreme Court has said. So if it is in line with what the judge has said, shikena, they will be happy. And if not, they lose.
Thank you so much, sir.
Are you with me?
Yes, we're with you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Because of time, we can't continue, but I'd love to ask you more on properly joining people in suits and, and the basics of legalese and all of that. But thank you so much, sir, for your impact. And Happy New Year, sir, once again. Good to see you. Wish you a very prosperous year. It's time for a short break on the morning show. When we return, Rising News, Alice Emmanuel and Feni join us to review top stories in today's newspaper. Stay with us.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles. As long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
With their so-called experience in 2019, Lagos's poverty rate was 4.5% and today it's 8.5% with 4.2 million Lagosians in extreme poverty. It is only an inexperienced manager that will pump 10 billion naira into an employment scheme to address unemployment rate of 14.6% in 2019. And today, same unemployment rate has gone up to 37.16% with 1.8 million Lagosians having no jobs. The duo of Jando and Funke have been investing in Lagos's economy for about 2 decades, running their personal businesses, employing people with track records of success. Lagos needs a breath of fresh air. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
It all starts with a bell. And that bell means it's business time. The bell rings in London, Lagos, Cairo, and Joburg, kicking off a new day of opportunities. New idea being born and bought, deals being done, big global players winning big or losing it all. IPOs, mergers, takeovers, stocks, bonds, and commodities. In the business world, the winner takes the spoils. In the business day, every moment matters. Trust us to be your guide to the highs and lows of the global marketplace. We'll round up the business day with up, what's down, the bears and the bulls, and what to watch out for. This is Arise Exchange. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Great Malabite, good morning.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Just before we start this review, of course, we'll start with this, the Nigeria's newspaper of record. But just to make the point that Robert Clark, SAN, yes, he dished out the law, no doubt about that. But his allegation that we were journalists, he did not even prove.
Efendi, are you here to review an interview?
No, I'm not reviewing.
Or you are here to review newspaper?
No, because it was an allegation made against Arise.
No, don't detain us with that. We've done that. We've passed it.
No, but that was not countered, and that's why I'm countering that.
No, he did.
No,
Rufai
that we
was
were
on the
journalists.
Rufai was on the program, did.
That we were journalists.
Review newspaper.
Yes.
Review newspaper.
We'll go to the newspaper now. Now, the lead story, Malami, federal government will obey Supreme Court ruling against banning old Naira notes. Move to vacate order. Give reasons why suit should be set aside. CBN attributes scarcity of new banknotes to hoarding. NSA tasked lawmakers to find solutions to crisis. Yes, until that interview yesterday by Arise News channel with Abubakar Malami via phone, there was confusion as to whether the federal government is going to obey that order made by the Supreme Court, the ex parte order given by the Supreme Court, but which, of course, dominated the headlines of some other newspapers, because as at that time, there was no word from the federal government. And the Punch newspaper reporting new Naira note, confusion deepens as CBN deadline ends today. In fact, a number of supermarkets were not sure whether they should continue receiving the old notes as at yesterday, because there was no word from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. And hence this report by the Punch newspaper, which captured the situation as at that time. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper also has that story. CBN keeps mum on Supreme Court order, blames new notes scarcity on hoarding. While the Nation newspaper reporting on this story, more banks close branches for lack of cash to pay customers. Yes, but of course the situation continued yesterday. Scarcity of the new Naira notes, long queues at ATM machines of Nigerians waiting to collect their hard-earned money from the bank. While Business Day reporting this story, soldiers pull rank, shunt queue to cash Naira. Of course, they had to use their positions as soldiers. Somebody was suggesting that if you want this issue to disappear immediately, pay soldiers and pay police and see whether they will not force their way into the bank and collect their money. Yes, soldiers pull on their uniform and went to the banks, shunting, of course, describing themselves as staff, as they used to do in buses, to collect their money. So the situation is still dire. People buy money, of course. An example of that given by Robert Clark, SAN, that he bought 100,000 naira for 125,000 naira. Of course, when you are in dire straits, you need money to solve some problems. You just have to find a way. Over the weekend, somebody bought 50,000 naira, paying 15,000 to buy that 50,000. And of course, he said, I don't have a choice. I have to get some money to do what I have to do. Now, the Guardian newspaper, Buhari prepares for May 29, set up Transition Council, gives 2 slots to success of 2023 elections. Federal government orders closure of universities for 3 weeks. Lecturers will swear to oath of neutrality, says INEC. INEC laments 1,241 pre-election suits, 6 pro bono service from MBA. Yes, it must be taking its toll on INEC resources to defend a number of these cases that it has been dragged into by the political parties. Now, if we look, of course, the Daily Independent newspaper also reporting this story, Buhari prepares to hand over with 22-man Transition Council. This will be the 3rd time, May 29 will be the 3rd time that a president will be handing over to another. Obasanjo did it in 2003, when he handed over to Yaradua. And of course, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan handed over to President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. And of course, come May 29, President Muhammadu Buhari will hand over to somebody. One of the 18 political parties will produce the president. And that is what Nigerians will decide on February 25. Who is the next president? And Nigerians will decide on May 25. But I must go back to the front page of this day. There's a story there. The last story at the bottom, just before the advert. in major gaffe. Ayu says PDP has brought us shame and will not continue to retain them in power. Yes, a gaffe. It's not peculiar to one person, except that in this case, it was not the presidential candidate of the PDP that made this gaffe, but the chairman of the PDP. Yes, we've read and talked about gaffe by other politicians, presidential candidates on this program. So if this day has put this on its front page, of course, it's good. It is also highlighted. The foreign newspapers quickly. The Times of London. British missiles may hit Crimea. Kiev prepared to use long-range weapons to target occupied peninsula. Yes, the aftermath of the visit of Zelensky to the president of Ukraine, to the United Kingdom, and of course, considerations of sending long-range, British long-range missiles to Ukraine. The Harpoon anti-ship missiles, which cost £1.2 million each, with a range of 150,000 miles, as well as the Storm Shadows, which cost £2.2 million each, with a range of 350 miles, will be sent to Ukraine to help in the war. But the Daily Telegraph is reporting that Ukraine unlikely to be sent British jets until the war is over. So for Zelensky, you win some and you lose some. He's not going to get jets from Britain. Well, Ruben and Rufai.
That comes as some kind of big relief because, you know, on this same program we had said the other time that if, you know, the UK will send fighter jets and other countries will send fighter jets to assist Ukraine, that could escalate the war.
Serious escalation.
Because of the counter threats that have been issued by President Putin of Russia. But the explanation that is given in this particular case is that, look, it will be like giving somebody a bicycle and then you change the bicycle to a light-powered you know, jet, and that it will require training, and that, you know, Ukraine does not have the capacity, you know, to manage, to man those, you know, cutting-edge, you know, technology in those fighter jets. I guess that explanation.
That's a good excuse.
That explanation has just been given as a diplomatic way of saying we can't send our troops into the war. You know, so the excuse is that even if you are going to give Ukraine jets, you have to train personnel. You can't send British people to go and get directly involved in the fight. And I thought, well, it's a big relief. But the other story I wanted to draw your attention to, maybe I should leave that till the last. The other story, of course, is the president signing Executive Order number 14 of 2023 to provide a legal framework for, you know, transition. And then he also setting up a presidential transition committee. At the level of gesture, at the level of signal, that sends a very strong signal to those who have been saying the election should be postponed or there should be interim national government. This is the president signaling that he is determined to go ahead with this election, get it done with, and leave government on May 29th. I think that that's an important signal. And all of those who have been second-guessing the government, coming up with all kinds of conspiracy theories, should take their cue from that. I don't know whether the president needs an executive order to set up a transition committee, but in any case, we note the signal. Finally, in the UK, the Anglican Church has now taken a decision, voting, you know, the majority having their way, to give blessings to same-sex unions, which would be a radical departure from the traditional Anglican definition of marriage. But when I saw that story, I said, well, we live in a changing world. After all, there are people who are also pushing for a reinterpretation of the Bible to make the Bible gender neutral, so that you don't.
The Bible has not changed.
No, but there are proposals that instead of referring to God.
I'm even referring to the decision of the Anglican Church. The Bible has not changed. Marriage is still between man and woman, according to the Bible. If they are saying this is the same sex in others, I won't even bother. But when a church gets involved, we refer to the Holy Writs, the Bible. That is the ground norm for Christians. Anything outside that, well, the church is doing something else.
I just wanted to say something, please, if I get the time. And it's just a quick comment on Russia and Ukraine. Please, Ukraine should be wise. because the West now has been able to push them away and say, we don't want to give you planes, after urging them on into a fight with Russia. They're seeing the repercussions. I'm not supporting Russia's invasion, which was wrong, which was against every international status quo. But the question remains, when peace was put on the table, hope the West did not disrupt that possibility because they wanted to hit at Russia. Because this same West that is saying that, oh, Zelensky, go away, shush, we're not giving you fighter jets. These were the same people that when it was easy for them in 2011 in Libya, you remember what they did in Gaddafi? NATO brought about a no-fly zone, and their planes dominated the skies of Libya.
But that's talking about Libya.
No, I'm just saying, no, it's hypocrisy, just to call it hypocrisy.
There was also no-fly zone in Iraq.
And Iraq, when it was convenient for them.
You're talking about Russia.
But now it's Russia because they know the capacity of Russia, but they are urging the Ukraine on to go and use heads to go and break the coconuts, and now they are saying nothing for you.
Well,
I think the world is saying.
There's something called the balance of power.
Oh, yeah. No, it's true.
And strategic interests in international diplomacy. You don't go and jeopardize your own interests because you want to help other people. No country does that. Anyway, thank you very much, Efeni. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Shola Ebiseni, Southwest Zonal Coordinator, Labour Party, and Secretary General Afenifere. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
$34 million hectares of arable land, over 200 million people, one nation. Home to Africa's fertilizer company. Dangote Fertilizer. Pure urea fertilizer. With one single-minded passion to feed Nigeria. Every bag is a potential, an aspiration to turn this green nation into the biggest food basket of Africa. Dangote Fertilizer.
Let me tell you, no matter your poor background, PDP will give you the opportunity to be anything, to be whatever you want to become in your life.
Yawa, da so samu ne, Atiku ya samu, wazirin mu da shi da Okowa su ne namu. In fa an samu, wai, da na samu. Idan na samu kai ka samu kowa ya samu ya so samu ne ku dangwala wa Atikun dai saboda ba wani shakka shugaban kasa shine daidai in fa an samu dala ta karye a cire tsoro a gyara tsaro bana dole mu warke ya so samu ne a ce a rike tuta na tsawon minti 10 kuma ba wanda zai huta in fa an samu in fa an samu mene wani habawa to ku zaɓi Atiku da shi da Okowa dan za ku ga aiki ya so samu ne mu dangwala ma PDP ku fito mi zaɓe ku fito da BBC rayuwa for Naija is hard ko baba ya san ino easy ga tsada ga layin mai ga yunwa ga ba ko sisi rainy days ahead amma ga lema Atiku muke so sai lema da ni da kai da shi har da kema ran zaɓe dangwala ma lema in fa an sa
Welcome back to the show. Still the Arise Morning Show. Obedient are gearing up for a mega rally in Lagos this Saturday. The mega rally by the Labour Party will be hosting thousands of youth who had participated in social justice protests and are looking for a Nigerian president, the person of Peter Obi, the presidential flag bearer of the party, who would back their calls for change in government of the ruling All Progressive Congress APC. So joining us now to discuss the Labour Party mega rally in Lagos tomorrow is Shola Ebisheyin, Southwest Zonal Coordinator, Labour Party, and General Secretary General, I should say, Afeni Ferry. Real quickly, there are lots of qualms people say about the Labour Party now. At first, they talk about the massive infighting going on. Most of the rallies that were held in some northern states, the governorship candidates didn't even align with the presidential candidates. That's number one. Two, the APC always make bones about how scanty Labour Party rallies are, all right, in the northern part of the country. They also say it's a testament to the fact that there's no structure and everything. What would be different about Lagos?
Well, first and foremost, I do not share the view that Labour Party rallies are scanty in the northern part of the country. Those who say so probably do not really face the reality of what Labour Party has become. Labour Party is the umbrella for the obedience, as we call it. And it has a lot of components, which themselves are formidable groups on their own. If anybody watch what Labour Party pulled in Plateau, what we did in Taraba, what we did in Kaduna, such a person cannot honestly come and say we're not doing well in the northern part of the country. There are political parties which has reduced his own campaign to town hall meetings in areas where they know that they do not have advantage. But we are saying that Labour Party cuts across the 36 states of Nigeria because it is basically a party of the Nigerian youth, what they call the Sorosoke generation. And because Lagos is peculiar, and that is why we call it a mega rally that is coming up tomorrow. The agitation of the Nigerian youths for a change of government, to do things differently for the future of this country, of course, started from Lagos, and they have demonstrated in different ways. They have conducted 5 million man marches across the 20 local governments of Lagos. They have demonstrated it during the NSAS. So we are expecting tomorrow a convergence at an arena that takes perhaps the largest number of people. We are targeting the Tafawa Balewa Square, which is over 100,000 capacity. The largest other venues you have in Nigeria are probably the National Stadium or the MK Abiola Stadium in Abuja, which are just about 60,000. So some of the rallies you see other parties do. If somebody goes to Sani Abacha Stadium in Kano, or you go to Liberation Stadium in Port Harcourt, these are 25,000 capacity stadia compared with what Tafawa Balewa Square represents. So there is no, let me say again, there is no infighting within the Labour Party. I must say that. You see, Labour Party, you won't see crisis in a place where, or in an organization that means nothing to people. When you see people begin to agitate within, it is because that organization has something in stock for them. But that is nothing compared with what is happening in other political parties. You have a political party where 5 of their governors, where most of their previous governors say they are not going to be part of the campaigns of their presidential candidates. Can you compare that with what's happening in the Labour Party? I'm talking of PDP. I was in PDP. I contested governorship of Ondo State in PDP. In 2019, I was the returning officer for Abubakar Atiku in Ondo State, and we gave him 35,000 edge in terms of votes. But we're saying now that things have changed. Nigerians know where they're going, not just the youth.
Even when you look at the Nigerian Federation today, when you look at the candidates and what they portend for Nigeria and its corporate existence, you discover that it is the Labour Party candidate combination that has it. So 2023 is going to determine a lot about Nigeria. I heard the presidential candidate of the APC say in Abeokuta that it's going to be a revolution against a party. The party he helped to install. I heard the PDP also have their own views. So you have in one party where a large chunk of their members, former governors, present governors, say they have nothing to do with their presidential candidate. You have another one that is up in arms against the government in the same party of which they are presidential candidates. So there is nothing like the crisis you have, if there is any, it is because people want to occupy one position or the other. And you realize that it was just about a week ago that we succeeded in getting the INEC to accept candidates of Labour Party in some states. And that is what Labour Party is for you. Okay, we are the most organized, we are the most peaceful of the frontline political parties in Nigeria today.
We need to manage time if
Please.
the answers can be more concise.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you. In my view, crowds do not necessarily translate into votes.
Very well.
So parties will say, oh, we have this massive crowd, we have this mammoth crowd. How many of those people anyway have their PVCs? But I like your passion about the candidate of the Labour Party. But the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, insists that Peter Obi is just a Nollywood actor. And that those of you who are supporting him, your passion is misplaced because he cannot even get more than 1%, 5%, in some parts of the country. That he will only win in the, maybe in the southeast. And so why are you following a Nollywood actor? That's number one. Number two, there is a group called the Afenifere Youth Council. I saw something about them. They're claiming that they are mobilizing about 127 youth groups or more to be at the rally for the Labour Party in Lagos tomorrow. Is there now an obedient wing of Afenifere? So is that body known to the Afenifere mainstream as the obedient arm of Afenifere? And after the election, what will happen to that arm of Afenifere?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. First, about Governor El-Rufai. I had Robert Clark SCN discussing this morning of the relationship between principal and his agent. Peter Obi is our principal as far as Labour Party is concerned, and he has answered El-Rufai that it's a pity that El-Rufai belongs to one of such groups that do not believe or that do not know that it takes very intelligent people to act. So he had just dismissed Nollywood actors as unserious people. And Peter Obi has answered him that, oh yes, he would love to be so identified and to do much about that part of the Nigerian life, so much because of even what it brings to Nigeria in times of revenue. But be that as it may, I think El-Rufai is a man to watch in the present political activities that's going on. When you come on air as a governor and you dismiss a whole faith in the entire northern part of Nigeria and say they are insignificant, and you look at the whole of the southeast and say they are not less than 10% of the voters in a particular state in the north, and you call up your presidential candidate and say he's being harassed and they're going to stop him, there are moves to stop him by the same government. I am surprised that Ashwajon and his people are not seeing El-Rufai as a fifth columnist, an agent provocateur that is attracting enmity to his presidential candidate. And those who continue to celebrate him do not see him as a very dangerous personality within their camp. But being that as it may, one of the things he said, and which are really of interest to me, is the need for the restructuring of the Nigerian Federation. The need for, because the way he was talking arrogantly is to say that, oh, some parts of Nigeria can never make it to the presidency. And it is because of the structure that is in place, which appears to favor him. But we will show him at the election that he particularly does not understand Nigeria. Peter Obi is going to win this election on the 25th of February. Peter Obi is going to win this election. He's the next president of Nigeria. And compare him with other candidates, just in a minute. There is no such candidate among the frontline candidates today that has the kind of character and capacity of Peter Obi. He's the only candidate that nobody is talking anything about. He's the only candidate you cannot say, oh, I don't want to say some of the accusation. This one, you are a drug peddler. This one, you are a thief, and all of such allegations. Nobody is able to say anything about Peter Obi. Peter Obi said he ran governorship of Anambra State for 8 years.
But people have got accusations of the Pandora paper, which has come to explain here.
Let them bring whatever paper.
So that's
let them bring whatever paper. At the end of the day, this man said he was governor in Anambra State, and since he left government, he has not taken pure water from government. He does not have an inch of land.
I need you to respond to the question about the youth wing.
The youth wing, the Afenifere youth wing. Yes, Ruben. You are Afenifere yourself, you know. Yes, you know that Afenifere does not have any youth council. It does not have any youth group. But the name of Afenifere is attractive enough for people to use to mobilize for Peter Obi. To that extent, we have no problem. We have no problem with it at all. They are youths, they are Yoruba youths who perhaps maybe they do not feel themselves accessible enough to the Afenifere mainstream. And because Afenifere has now come to embrace Peter Obi, or the parent body has declared for Peter Obi, what are the children doing? So they have gone on their own to create a council for the purpose of mobilizing. And they said they are bringing 125,000 people to the TBS arena. They are welcome.
Okay, I mean, that's for, the watchers and political watchers to see if they're going to get 125,000 people. You said he's the next president. Peter Obi is the next president.
He's the next president.
It's the people of Nigeria that will decide that. We can't call anyone the next president.
You and I are Nigerians.
There are other
people,
millions of Nigerians watching. But two things I would like to say also. Talking about Peter Obi and Afenifere backing him, let's not forget there's still a debacle as regards the endorsements. Part of Afenifere, Fashion has endorsed Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You can't run away from that. And this Afenifere, you are saying Afenifere is for Peter Obi. Who is Afenifere for really? Tinubu or Fashion? That's number one. Secondly, next year poll says Peter Obi has a path to the presidency. Fitch Solutions did a poll and said Tinubu has a path to the presidency. What would you say about those two polls?
I didn't get your last point.
Secondly, next year polls said Peter Obi has a path to win the presidency. In fact, will win the presidency.
Right.
Or probably there's going to Fitch says Tinubu has a path to win the presidency, or there's going to be a runoff. Fitch Solutions, it's a London-based organization, says there's going to be, Tinubu has a path to win the presidency, or there's going to be a runoff. Which of the, I want you to speak to the two different polls, and also talk to me about who is Afenifere for, Tinubu or Peter Obi, because there's been endorsement for Tinubu and Peter Obi in the Afenifere fold.
Well, I've been here 2 times on this issue of whether Afenifere or who Afenifere has endorsed. And we have put that to rest, that there is only one Afenifere. There are no 2 Afeniferes. There is only one Afenifere, and that Afenifere has endorsed Peter Gregory Obi. We're not going to dwell on that. And since that time, the only voice you have been hearing in the Nigerian public space is a voice of Chief Ayo Adebanjo, who leads the Afenifere now. Our leader does not, he prayed for Tinubu, and that was the end of it. I do not want to go over that. You know, we have settled that long ago. If Atiku goes to Akure today, he will be prayed for. I likened Baba to a pope the other time, and I said his house is open to everyone. In terms of endorsement, it is Peter Obi Afenifere has endorsed. Okay, so and I'm speaking at the Secretary General of the organization.
The two polls.
The two polls. Yes, we take polls as they come. We are encouraged by those who say we will win, but we will not rest on our oars because of that. Those who say, oh yes, we are likely to have someone have a little edge, they have challenged us to do more. So we are not resting on our oars, neither are we despondent about the reports of polls.
Okay, let me ask you this. At the memorial event for Professor George Obiozor at the NIA the other day, Adebanjo, so it's good you mentioned him,
yes,
was there, and he made a speech in which he was saying that we should forget about the idea of a united Nigeria if Peter Obi does not win this election. In an election in which we have a choice of 18 candidates, is that the position of Afenifere that there will be crisis if Peter Obi does not win?
Well, Ayo Adebanjo, as far as Nigeria is concerned, is an oracle. And he is being prophetic about what may likely happen to this federation if we continue to deprive a group of Nigerians, a sizable chunk of Nigeria, the sense of belonging. It's not about where Peter Obi comes from.
But you said forget Nigeria if you don't vote for Peter Obi.
Nigeria is on the edge. Is it not clear that Nigeria is on the edge? And the international community knows today. We have said it over and over again that Nigeria is a federation of entrenched ethnic nationality. It is ethnic nationality that determines Nigeria. And that was what Peter Rufai was saying by comparing some section of the country with the others.
Rufai.
Yes, Rufai, sorry. That's what Rufai was saying, by comparing one section of Nigeria with the others. And therefore, Nigeria cannot go on like that. Nigeria cannot survive on, like I told you, I've come a long way in Nigerian politics. I became chairman of local government just 2 years after my youth service, and about the youngest local government chairman in Nigeria during the Babangida transition program. I have been commissioner for about 12 years in Ondo State. I've contested the election as governor. I was a member of the 2014 National Conference. That National Conference, for instance, everything that was debated there is how to move Nigeria forward and give every group a sense of belonging. We were there. I belong to the same committee. Ayu, the current national chairman of the PDP, was the chairman of the political and electoral committee, of which I was a member. And everything that was discussed at the various committees was how do we move Nigeria forward. To move Nigeria forward, the presidency of Nigeria should be zoned on north-south basis and then percolating down to the regions. And therefore, without being pedantic or without wanting to repeat myself about what I've said here and there, we said Obasanjo did it for Southwest, Yar'Adua and Buhari did it for the North, Jonathan did it for the South-South. It is the turn of the Southeast. And so many people in Nigeria had come to that reality. The Southern and the Middle Belt Forum leader says that is Southeast, it is Peter Obi. Obasanjo says it's Peter Obi. T.Y. Danjuma says it's Peter Obi. Who else in Nigeria, apart from those who just have love for power, who else in Nigeria has endorsed any of the other presidential candidates? Those of our leaders, both current and past leaders, who are endorsing Peter Obi, they know within themselves, nobody can be more Nigerian than President Obasanjo. Well, he has said it over and over again. Even sometimes the Yorubas quarrel with him, that you are not. But he has come to 11 and said, look, if this country must move forward, you read him. He said, the Naira of Peter Obi of the next presidency has a lot to say in Nigeria's corporate existence.
But whatever happens at the end of the day, that should not translate to the end of Nigeria.
Oh, well,
you know, this country must survive.
Well, this country must survive with all of us having a sense of belonging to the Federation.
On that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Shola Ibifene of Afenifere, and strong supporter of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party.
Yes, thank you, Ruben. We are inviting Nigerians to Tafawa Balewa Square tomorrow from 10 a.m. 120,000 capacity. That is what we are expecting for Peter Obi. It's going to be a mega rally.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibiseni. We'll take a short break now. And when we return, we'll be talking to Stuart Wakeling, Henley and Partners Group, Managing Partner, UK Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
My name is Kashim Shetima. I'm an agricultural economist by training, a banker by profession, and now a public servant by calling. I was the governor of Borno State for 8 years. In the heat of the Boko Haram, we set up an agricultural transformation committee. We crisscrossed the world and invested in the whole agricultural value chain. Lagos is the smallest state in Nigeria in terms of landmass, 3,577 square kilometers. But the largest rice mill in Africa and the third largest in the world is located in Imota in Lagos. That is the power of ideas. Bola Tinubu is an idea whose time has come. Let us vote for Bola Tinubu to be the president of Nigeria come 25th of February. God bless Nigeria.
Hello, welcome to Able to Vote Guide. In this edition, we'll present to you how a registered voter who is blind can participate in the forthcoming general election. My name is Jake Epele. I'm the founder and CEO of CAF Africa. Let's get started. Let's say you are that individual. On arrival with your aid, you are expected to go straight to the INEC presiding officer and introduce yourself. That presiding officer will give you the opportunity to take your first place in the line. It's called priority voting. When you have that opportunity, take time to go through the accreditation process. The moment you are accredited, please note that you cannot be told what to do by the INEC presiding officer nor your aide. The choice of who you will vote and the party to vote is absolutely yours. Don't let anyone tell you what to do at that particular time. Join us in the next edition when we tell every registered blind voter what provisions that are available for you to participate in the process. Follow us on our social media handle. And remember that this program is sponsored by the European Union through their EU SDGN project and our media partners. See you on the next edition of the series. My name is Jake Epele. Bye.
Landlord, now this guy, you authority to from my house. Point of correction. Compound that is my house. Landlord, they will leave from your house. For the past how many days now? Noise times 10. Times 10. Every day, on a national phone. If it don't make sense, I will find it. Times 10. Bam. Even now, I'm a man of timber and caliber. When I'm more go watch. I'll go with zero credit. Open the globe bracket at times 10. Just dial star 777 hash. No! I don't get no! That's it!
Yoria Uburi na recharge obli ijiri Globe Rekete 10 times me. I ga-enwetakwa bonus data mmaji abụọ tinyekwara 1000 naira bonus maka ndị na-abata na Glo ọhụrụ. Pịa star 777 hash iji bata n'egwu.
The state of Nigeria has tested our strength, our patience, and our endurance. But we keep our hopes alive because we know that a better Nigeria is achievable with a safe vote. 2023, the year we have been waiting for, has come. It is now time to break free from the 7-year-long sickness that has troubled Nigeria. It is time to choose to recover so we can heal our land, secure our people, mend our economy, access abundant jobs, strengthen the Naira, and reclaim glory as a true giant of Africa. 2023 is the year to recover Nigeria. Vote PDP.
With their so-called experience in 2019, Lagos's poverty rate was 4.5% and today it's 8.5% with 4.2 million Lagosians in extreme poverty. It is only an inexperienced manager that will pump 10 billion naira into an employment scheme to address unemployment rate of 14.6% in 2019. And today, same unemployment rate has gone up to 37.16% with 1.8 million Lagosians having no jobs. The duo of Jando and Funke have been investing in Lagos's economy for about 2 decades, running their personal businesses, employing people with track records of success. Lagos needs a breath of fresh air. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The increasing wave of emigration of Nigerians to other parts of the world is creating more public attention. With the official revelation that Nigeria Immigration Service issued a total of 1,899,683 passports in 2022, the highest in a single year, and in the last 7 years, shows that Nigerians are on the move, especially professionals, artisans, and even those without any skills desperately in search of opportunities in other climes for survival. According to the 2023 first quarter index report of Henley Passport Index, Japan continues to hold first place in 2023 first quarter with a visa-free or visa-on-arrival score of 193. Singapore and South Korea in second place with access to 192 destinations without a prior visa. In joint third place are Germany and Spain with access to 190 countries visa-free. However, Nigeria is in the 97th position with access to only 46 countries. while Afghanistan has the fewest number of visa-free access in the world. Joining us now to discuss the Passport Index report is Stuart Wakeling, Henley & Partners Group Managing Partner, UK, Nigeria. Stuart, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, quickly, tell us about this Henley Passport Index report, the methodology, the coverage, and then tell us about the power and value of a passport with regard to, the theme of your report.
Okay, so it's a report that we've been doing for many, many years now. It simply ranks each and every country, 199 are assessed, and it ranks each and every country on how many destinations or how many other countries that passport can get you visa-free or visa upon arrival. So it's a very important ranking because it shows the ability of the citizens of that nation to guide you on how many people, how many countries they can travel to.
Visa-free?
Visa-free or visa upon arrival.
But you say this report is based on International Air Transport Association.
Correct.
Report.
Yeah, it's exclusive data from the International Air Transport Association.
Does that not mean that if citizens from a particular country don't travel that much, then they won't feature?
199 countries are assessed. So it's pretty much every single country on the planet, and then it analyzes each and every passport in regards to that.
So you're condensing IATA data. What are the other indices too, like Dr. Bati asked, that you put in all of this to be able to bring in the report? Or it's just only the IATA data you put out?
Correct, yeah. So it simply ranks the amount of destinations that passport holder can travel to.
So what informs even the IATA data in the first place? What informs the ranking of these countries based on that IATA data?
It simply is the waivers, the visa waivers that a country has in association with another country. So, for example, Japan, 190 odd destinations. We know that because that the data that just drives that information gives you the result. So we know that Nigerians can only travel to 46 countries without the need for a visa.
But what are the lessons that we can extract from this? I mean, if a Japanese has free access to 193 countries, and somebody from Germany and Spain has free access to 190 countries, and a Nigerian can only have free access to 46 countries. What are the lessons that we can extrapolate? What makes certain passports more powerful than some other passports?
So it's driven by many years of data, but traditionally it's based upon historic ties between countries. Visa waivers are traditionally reciprocal, so meaning if Japan allows British people to travel without the need for a visa, traditionally it allows the reverse. And so the lessons to be learned are that proactive public relations need to be in place and work needs to be done by the relevant governments to increase the mobility of the passport in question.
So is this what informs people now going to get passports of countries like St. Kitts and Nevis and some other Caribbean countries that have more visa mileage or more visa-free mileage in parts of Europe and America? Is that what involves that? And is there, anything we can also learn from that?
Yes, so you're absolutely right. So a wealthy Nigerian gentleman or lady can obviously increase the ability for their global mobility by investing in another country, such as St. Kitts that you mentioned. We at Henley & Partners have effectively 33 programs available, and the reason for that is people who have sort of earned money and done extremely well in life, they then have the ability to upgrade their passport. But the important point is that our clients, of all of my clients in Nigeria, not one single client has relocated. They are doing this for Plan B alternatives. They are doing this for greater mobility across the planet, for increased business opportunity. And so It's very different to what we see in Nigeria in terms of the younger professional guys who haven't necessarily become such high net worth individuals. They're leaving potentially for other reasons. But our clients, what they're looking at in terms of upgrading their passports is having that plan B alternative, the ability to travel freely, which their passport at the moment, in terms of a Nigerian passport, doesn't allow. No one chooses where they are born. And what we do at Henley allows someone to upgrade their passport by way of making an economic contribution to the country in question.
Well, the Nigerian law provides for dual nationality. But one of the lines in your report says a passport is not just a useful tool, it's a tool also for financial opportunity. So you talk about investment migration. Is it automatic that if you can travel to more countries, then it translates into investment opportunity or financial opportunity? What if you are just traveling for purposes of tourism?
Yeah, I mean, we have clients who have a myriad different reasons as to why they're looking to obtain an additional citizenship or residency. One of them is pure tourism. They want to be able to travel freely. One of them is business opportunity. I have many clients that come to me and say, you know, I'm wanted in a meeting in Dubai or in Europe or the US or wherever. And their their passport is traditionally lost for 2-3 months during the visa application service. So what this allows them to do is travel freely without the necessity to give their passport in for 2-3 months or the like.
Okay, so all you do is you facilitate. But even with all those countries in the Caribbean, they've started to look at them with another eye and critically scrutinize their passports now because they're seeing things like this. I mean, you remember the big scandal that broke out I think one of the countries in the Caribbean the other day of how this process, and the introduction of people, that have very uncharitable means of living using this as an opportunity. How do you scrutinize the profile to ensure that you don't have criminals and terrorists using services like this?
Yeah. So we do very, very in-depth due diligence on every single client that walks through our door. We then, once we go through that DD, we then decide whether we're prepared to move forward. Then we compile the application ready for the relevant government in question. We are effectively recommending them to the government in question. And that government then does 3 or 4 months of their own due diligence to decipher whether they will accept the applicant or not in the end. So it's a very in-depth and, of course, the odd issue slips through the net, but certainly not with us. And in terms of the greater good, there is far, far more accepted than the ones that shouldn't be as such.
Anyway, you've been talking about clients. So Nigeria is a very big market. So I'd like to ask you, as we say in, local parlance, how markets in Nigeria, what has been the response? Because, many Nigerians would like to have that second passport since the law allows it better. How is the business in Nigeria in terms of the response from people? And how affordable is the service that you provide?
The rules of the programs that we offer are obviously government driven. Traditionally, you would need to be a high net worth individual to afford what we do.
Like be a billionaire.
Sorry?
Like you have to be a billionaire.
Dollars, I mean, in terms of US dollars, we're talking millionaires, yeah.
Millionaires only?
Dollars.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's never been more affordable. I mean, yes, we're talking for high net worth individuals, but it's not as unachievable as it used to be.
I mean, what is the level of response from Nigerians?
Over the last 4 years, we at Henley have seen a 1,100% increase in the business from Nigeria.
Okay. All right, we'd like to say a very big thank you to you for your time and talking to us about this. And if there's just one advice you'd like to give generally, how we too can improve our passport prospect in Nigeria?
Absolutely.
You know, what will it be?
It's about proactive public relations. So you have to take it from the view of how a country is perceived by the rest of the world. So lots of factors are taken into account when deciphering how many destinations a citizen of a said country can travel to. These include the wealth of the country, the GDP, the stability, the government structure, and the list goes on. So it's about improving each and every one of those things. It's not all doom and gloom for Nigeria, absolutely not. You know, the visa-free countries that you have been able to travel to as a Nigerian citizen has not decreased hugely. I think they've lost 19 in the last 10 years. So it's remained relatively stable. You know, lots of people have plummeted, lots of nations have plummeted. This has remained relatively stable, but there is a lot more that the nation can do to improve public relations and start offering these reciprocal visa-free arrangements that we talked about at the top of the show.
Well, thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
It's time for a short break now. When we return, we'll have Aaron Akerjelas give us global sports updates. Stay with us.
Imagine your wallet can be everything. Well, almost everything your bank is to you. That's exactly what First Money Wallet is. First Money Wallet from First Bank is another swift and seamless way to bank from your mobile phone. It doesn't matter if you have a First Bank account or not, nor the mobile network you use. Everyone can open a First Money Wallet, and it's very easy. Your phone number is your account number. With First Money Wallet, you can send money using just a phone number, receive money, pay bills, buy airtime and data for yourself or someone else, and check balance. You don't need a bank account at all or BVN to enjoy the boundless possibilities First Money Wallet offers. All you need is a registered phone number, and you can fund your wallet easily through your First Bank account or any bank account and debit card. What's more, First Money Wallet is highly secure with fingerprint technology and PIN. And when you need cash, just walk up to any First Money agent near you to withdraw money. No smartphone, no wahala. Just dial *894*1# on any phone. So it doesn't matter if you live in the city or the remotest part of the country. With First Money Wallet, your transactions are easy, seamless, and secure. Download the First Money Wallet app now. Input your phone number and follow the prompts, or simply dial *894*1#. All money now on First Money. You first. First Bank.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years, from loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
Welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. Aaron is here for some sad stories, I presume, as regards sports, but some good stories too will be there.
Because there are some good stories, but let's start it off with the big one. And that's the fact that Nigeria's national 200 meters holder, talking about Divine Oduduru, at the moment has been suspended from... Oduduru. Okay. Oduduru. Oduduru, yes. Has been suspended from competitions indefinitely by the Athletics Integrity Unit over 2 anti-doping violations. As a matter of fact, they said that he actually had, quote, that the possession and or use of and attempted use of multiple prohibited substances. Now, this is in line with the Blessing Okabare's case. Of course, she got 11 years from the IAU, and right now the IAU are proposing that Divine should get 6 years for that particular. Now, there was, we spoke about a certain Dr. Lira at a certain time and how he was involved in disseminating banned substances to several people. He had been on the run for a while, talking about Divine, and ultimately the long hand of the law has caught up with him, because after the Olympics, a lot of things, when he saw what happened to Blessing, because they were using, from all reports, they were using the same supplier, Dr. Lira, Eric Lira, so he knew that it was only a matter of time, and it's unfortunate this has actually happened. And now the truth is they are friends. Blessing probably took him under her wings, and over the years they had. This is Divine. I never expected it. Yes, I never expected Divine. Yes, as a matter of fact. Jesus. So we are seeing some of our most gifted and decorated athletes succumbing to doping charges. It's really sad. Really, really sad. I must actually say. And away from that, quickly, let's talk about the fact that later on this weekend, tomorrow to be very precise, the Club World Cup finals will be taking place. Real Madrid against Al Hilal, and Ojo Judigallo at the moment is at the center of all this, and they'll be hoping that something actually happens. Real Madrid are gunning for the 5th Club World Cup championship. Let's see if that would actually happen. Vinicius Jr. and the gang, Rodrigo and Valverde, they are in spanking form, I must say. Without even the Karim Benzema, he trained, but they're still doubtful if he will play in the World Cup club final. Away from that, the Super League is back after it coming rearing its ugly head 2 years ago, and it met its very ill-fated end after 48 hours. They are back right now. A particular Madrid firm, A22, being pushed by, of course, Florentino Perez and Juan Laporta, and the Juventus club are insistent that this time around, between 60 to 80 clubs will be there, a multi-division format. No permanent members will be, no club will be given permanent membership in the course of this particular new proposal. They are saying that this is an opportunity, but some have looked at it and said that with what is happening in the Premier League, it's only a matter of time that this actually happens, because Barcelona, Juventus, and Real Madrid are facing an existential crisis, because what Chelsea just did has just prompted something, or probably has sunk home the notion that the Premier League is like a Super League of its own, understanding that no one can compete. What Chelsea spent in this winter transfer window and in the course of the entirety of the summer and winter transfer window, 4 leagues did not spend up to that. So you look at all that and you say that the Premier League are now becoming very top-heavy. Yes. And it's coming at the detriment of other leagues. Yes. And probably this is a way to mitigate against that. But whether it will stand, we have to wait. It goes to court. Quickly, talking about the Premier League, Manchester United right now, we are hearing that bids are actually coming in. A particular firm in the UK are actually trying to bring that one in for the Glazer family with the hope that they sell. As a matter of fact, the Rain Group have said that 17th of February, you need to put your bid in. So we hear that a Qatari group are actually trying to put their own bid in. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you said how much was he worth? He's worth over 15 billion pounds. He has also put a bid in. David Beckham is leading another consortium that will put a bid in. Let's see how it actually goes, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. And Cristiano Ronaldo, a former Manchester United player, decided that he will mark his 500th club career goal in style. Of course, he scored 4 goals on the day, and showing that he's not slowing down anytime soon. He promised that he will score 30 hat-tricks before turning 30 and 30 after turning 30. And Ronaldo has just completed that. Quickly, the Super Bowl is this weekend.
Oh, yeah, the biggest.
Yes,
the biggest.
Of course, the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas Chiefs. And it is very special for different reasons. First of all, it is the first Super Bowl that will have 2 black quarterbacks. So let's see what happens. Patrick Mahomes won the MVP award, so he'll be hoping that he can actually do that. Another one is the fact that the Kelsey brothers, all right, will be on opposing sides. So this is the first time 2 families are meeting at the Super Bowl. We have to wait and see. Then Rihanna is going to be there. First time in 5 years.
What a great Super Bowl. But Aaron, when we made this conversation last year, you remember that I argued that money will always take the day. And you said, no, the fans should be respected. But Aaron, this is what it's showing you, that money will always trump every decision when it comes to sports. I'm sure you are realizing, but it's just taking you 1 year to be able to get it. See what Chelsea spent. It was madness. Close to $500 million. $500 million in transfer fees. This timeline alone, since Ted Bolly got in, you know it's madness. And tell you what, and that's why you see the Middle Easterns are coming big into the league. The Saudi Arabians, they own Newcastle already. I'm seeing the Qataris want to get Manchester United to be able to have a very, very shining glory for them, because the Middle East are looking for life beyond oil, and they want to metamorphose into
and the Qataris
football.
are not the same Qataris that own PSG.
No, they have different consortiums.
Different. This is a very limited time at your disposal. I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that the Ministry of Sports has just now told us that they will publish the medals table for the last
60 days after the
National Sports Festival.
Yes.
60 days after. They've tinkered with that medals table about twice. First medals table, second medals table. 60 days later now, they say they will now publish a medals table. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yes, it is.
When people go to the Olympics, they go to some other tournaments, or they go to Commonwealth Games. As the event is ending, you already know the standing of all the teams. So this is strange. I think the missing link here is that the Ministry of Sports should be talking about sanctions for those people who manipulated the medals table. It's not enough to say that, the standing is still relatively the same, at the top. But who tampered with that medals table? We can't have a sporting regime that has no integrity. Yet Ronaldo has done very well. 61st hat-trick goals. 503 goals in 5 different leagues, 5 different teams over the years. So congratulations to him. But Manchester United appears to be doing well, even without him.
Not so well.
They are now 3 on the league table. They won all their Old Trafford matches about last night. Haven't they done better?
No, but they drew against Leeds United.
Anyway.
No one saw that one coming.
It's time now. Thank you. It's time now for a short break. When we return, Ojineka Okwe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do. I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business. We vote is the answer. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Vote is the answer. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business. We vote by Polaris Bank.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Vault is the answer.
Esther, you're late again. Esther?
She's a wandering light in the the darkness. She's beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar.
Morning, Esther.
She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know the fear. She know they ever got a hand for her.
No phones at the table, please. Esther. I love you too.
Got everything? Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Haruna, Bisi, Akman, Unduka, how will I want to do on election day?
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote to, I broom I go put my hand over for Tinubu. On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote to, I broom I go put my hand over for Tinubu.
People of Nigeria, make we all come out on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president. Make Nigeria for better. Make you put your hand for APC, the party where show broom. Not forget oh, now broom you go put your hand in. Bam!
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote to, I broom I go put my hand over for Tinubu.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojinika Ojiokwe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinix.
Fridays are special, aren't they? Good morning and happy Friday to you, Dr. Bati. How are you? Great, thank you. Good morning, Rufai. How are you?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday
good,
to
good.
you.
Morning,
Great. I can't wait for the weekend to begin. Well, all right. Let's begin what's trending. With just 15 days to the presidential election, candidates of the leading political parties, the All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party, and the Labour Party on Thursday took their campaigns to the north to canvass for votes. Peter Obi, the Labour Party's flag bearer during the party's campaign rally at the Old Parade Ground in Abuja, told his supporters that he will revolutionize governance in the country if he wins the February 25th presidential election, while lamenting the level of unemployment in the country. Obi also promised to create an enabling environment for the youth to thrive.
You are the one running this election. The youth of Nigeria, you are the one contesting this election through us. We are only representing you. We want this to change. Nigeria youths, young people in Nigeria don't know where the next people will come from. We have high level of youth unemployment. We will employ our youths. We will make them productive. We have vast land in the north where our youths will be engaged and they will be productive. Nigeria will feed itself. Nigeria will be a great nation again. We don't want the excuses again.
Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress took their campaign rally to Sokoto State, where President Muhammadu Buhari reiterated his commitment to ensuring that Bola Ahmed Tinubu wins the presidential election. While Buhari asked his supporters to consolidate on the gains of democracy by voting for Tinubu, stating that his greatest strength was his effective governance of Lagos. Tinubu, during the rally held at the Jiginya Stadium, promised the people of the state live in better conditions.
To ensure prosperity.
Better education, job opportunity, agricultural produce, and better markets for Nigeria that will make you happy, make your children.
Well, the People's Democratic Party took their campaign to Kano State, where the party's flag bearer, Atiku Abubakar, promised to revamp the state's textile industry and open the borders for trade. Atiku also promised the youth opportunities, security and industrial development during the party's rally held at the Sani Abacha Stadium.
It is only PDP administration that can implement these 4 key policy issues. Therefore, I want to appeal to you to vote PDP from top to bottom, from bottom up. Do you understand me? And I promise you that these policies will be implemented during the PDP administration, because we have done that before. Inshallah, we shall do it again.
However, the national chairperson of the People's Democratic Party, Rocha Ayu, got all the attention from the party's rally held in Kano State after stating that the PDP, the party which he chairs, has brought shame onto Nigerians. Well, Ayu made this comment while speaking on the reasons the people of Kano State should not vote for the All Progressives Congress. Let's take a look.
We are supposed to be the leaders in Africa and everywhere in the world. We should be respected. PDP has brought us shame, and we will not continue to return them in power.
All right, Dr. Abati, while I catch my breath, this has generated a lot of reactions, especially from the APC camp. I don't know if I should take Festus Keyamo tweet first before I come to, but you know what, just tell me what you think before I take.
What Festus Keyamo was saying is that everybody should wait for the media today, and that will not make any headline. So you've disappointed him by making sure that you brought the story.
Of course.
But in any case, I mean, that's a classic example again of slip of the tongue. He wanted to refer to the APC. He mentioned PDP in this particular contest. He's not the first person to make that mistake. Even the wife of the presidential candidate of the PDP, you recall on one occasion, also wanted to talk about the PDP. But she mentioned another political party. Well, I mean, these things happen, and the fact that he's not the presidential candidate, is the chairman of the party. People may not make so much, capital out of it. There are normal circumstances in which people, have the slip of the tongue. The difference is when it becomes habitual. It becomes a major defining characteristic. And then people begin to raise questions about the health of the particular individual involved. However, all the parties were out there yesterday. The APC was in Sokoto State. Sokoto State, that's where you have the chairman of the campaign of the PDP, Aminu Tambuwa, as governor. While he was in Abuja, in Kano, the APC was in his state. But the major thing in that APC rally in Sokoto, 2 things. The president, again, coming out strongly to endorse the presidential candidate of the party, and reminding everyone that, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will consolidate on his achievements, and that he did very well in Lagos State. The second thing in Sokoto, of course, will be the fact that some persons who have been in the PDP defected to the APC, including, as reported, the deputy governor of Sokoto State. In Abuja, you had Mr. Peter Obi also having his own campaign. And one of the major things he told the crowd there is that, look, collect their money, they vote for us.
Right.
And, all the usual things about what you would do, move Nigeria from consumption to production, create jobs, address challenges of insecurity. And then in Kano, you had the PDP presidential candidate, who in fact visited the Emir of Kano, and who, in the course of the visit, pointed out that the present Emir said that the former Emir, also had told him that he will be president of Nigeria someday. But I think it's traditional for politicians to go to a city and then go see the, traditional ruler there, as the APC also did in Sokoto when, the delegation, the party chieftains, went to pay homage to the Sultan of Sokoto.
All right.
But we'll see more in terms of these activities.
Absolutely.
And February 25 will come and go, and we'll know where we are in Nigeria.
All right, before I come to you, I guess we'll go on a short break. And when we come back, What's Trending will continue. Stay with us.
Are you a dealer in cars, jewelry, precious metals and stones and luxury goods? Are you into real estate, or are you an estate agent, surveyor, valuer, developer or broker? Are you into the hospitality industry, lottery business, or are you a mortgage broker, tax consultant or an accountant? Do you have a supermarket, pools betting and consulting or construction company? If you have, go and obtain your certification from the Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering, SCUMOL, and be free to do your business within the ambits of the law. SCUMOL has the responsibility to monitor, supervise, and regulate the activities of designated non-financial business and professions, DNFBPs, across the country. Please note that the SCUMOL certificate is not a guarantee of legitimacy of any business. To register, visit www.scumo.org. For collection of certificate, visit any EFCC office nearest to you. Remember, registration is free.
SCUMOL, securing Nigeria's business environment. This message is from Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
When you think of fruit juice and all the goodness that comes in it, think Chivita, specially made for you. And there is more to choose from. Whatever your preferences are, there is a Chivita for you.
Oh,
Yes. Check out our new Chivita Smart Malt Drink. So, what's your Chivita?
Welcome back to the morning show. We're still on What's Trending. Well, Rufai, before we went on that break, we were discussing Irocha Ayu's gaffe at that rally. Let me just quickly take Festus Keamo's tweet. He wrote, in Kano today, Irocha Ayu, the PDP national chairman, confessed that PDP has brought shame and we should not retain them in power. This obvious slip of tongue will not make any headlines. Watch out for some press reports. Rufai.
No, but because we're very objective here, we say it the way it is. So it made the headlines. It's a slip of tongue. And you see, most of these slips are indicative of the fact that a lot of our politicians have crossed too much from one party to another. So they don't remember where they are sometimes. So that's why when somebody said the other day, was trying to refer to the PDP and said APC. In fact, somebody, he was so not sure at a point, he said, God bless APPDP, you know. So we hear things like that. It just shows you that the political class is one. And I think it's indicative of the fact that Nigerians should not be caught on in political shenanigans. You should be selfish to ask politicians what they will do for you to better your life. All of them are just one party. I don't think there are many political parties in Nigeria. It's just one party, and that's the elite political class. The day it favors them, they are together. The day it doesn't favor them, they set up other parties and they say, oh, I'm against this one, and they just used to get their political games. They and their children will always be richer. They will perpetuate themselves in power. Probably at some point, they'll capture the state. But going further than that, I appreciate the things that were said across, the three campaign grounds. First for Peter Obi, like you started, said all the right things. But you see, it's something for you to say things on the election ground. I'd like to quote Mario Cuomo that said, we campaign in poetry and govern in prose. Hope all of these promises they are making, hope when the rubber hits the road, they will not tell us that they didn't say $1, they were going to make $1 1 naira. Hope they will not deny, because politicians they've mastered the class art of lying and denying the things they said. And that's why I see, please, any of the campaign promises made by the Labour Party, the APC, the PDP, the NMPP, because NMPP too was in the news yesterday. I think they had a campaign somewhere, a regional, campaign session. I think people are writing them down because these things are going to make the bulk of the campaign promise. And it is based on this that they are going to be judged. All we just want is free and fair elections that work for the citizenry of Nigeria that are hard suffering. Nigeria is a blessed country, has the capacity to do well, but we've not gotten leadership right. And when we do it right, we'll be able to get to our desired destination.
Well said, Rufai. Well, in a new twist of events, the Special Advisor, Media Communications and Public Affairs of the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council, Dele Alake, on Thursday morning during a radio interview said that Bola Ahmed Tinubu's gaffe, in which he was heard muttering unintelligible words during a town hall meeting with the private sector in Imo State, was doctored. Let's take a look.
Give you an example, sir. When Bola Ahmed Tinubu was famously, shown to say the Balabalu, that's something I can't understand.
Is there no other way to say that?
No. But if he sleeps, sir, it's okay.
True. It's not true. What is true then?
It was doctored.
It was doctored.
It was doctored.
You do
I'm
realize...
telling you, it was doctored because we showed the real original video clip.
Why
on TVC.
Why would
and
you...
then it was broken into snippets and thrown on the social media.
Well, here's the video of Bola Ahmed Tinubu muttering those unintelligible words, which has since gone viral. Let's take a look.
You see the innovation. If we lend ourselves to innovation, we can create wonders. Yeah, it's a successful, again, a town hall, different from Blue, Bulaba.
Rufai, I have heard of deep fake, but how can you say that is a doctored video? This video has gone viral since November 17th. Last year.
November 17th, it went viral. They didn't give a rebuttal. Now you're telling me it's doctored. But I'm not surprised, though, Oji. It is you see, we journalists, Dr. Basimi, we're like Musa. There is nothing.
Musa will not see at the gates.
Musa will not see at the gates. Dr. Batino, was it not here that me and you were seated? That somebody said 2 bullion vans missed their way into somebody's house. He even further said that the bullion van was empty after the owner of the bullion van said it was me the bullion van was coming to. So, Oji, we are like Musa. And the thing about us is, as gatekeepers like us as Musa, there's nothing we will not see at the gate. So, if he said he's doctored, I mean Dr. Abat is here.
Dr. Abat,
anyway,
tell us.
I think, I've said it on this program before. The communications team of the APC presidential candidate, they've been doing more damage to him than necessary. And also the assumption that if they shout loudest, their version of noise will drown other people's noise, but it's not really working. And I hope that they will learn their lessons from what they are doing in the event that they win and not carry this kind of attitude into governance, because then even the consequences for the brand of their principal, will be worse. However, to put it as it is, I think, Mr. Dele Alake himself must be convinced within him that he's just spinning, he's just doing his job. What do you expect him to say? He will say it is doctored. But as the campaign team, have they even shown us what the original tape, the video is, which is exactly what you have done for them. You will see that even the journalists asking him the question, they were not convinced. So the thing almost degenerated into a shouting match. And I think, communication, crisis management ought to be better structured. When Comrade Ayodele Adewale came here, and he was confronted with this same blah, blah, blue, whatever. He said it was swag. That Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was showing swag. When they asked Festus Keyamo, they said, oh, it was sense of humor that the presidential candidate was showing. Now we have heard that it was a doctor. But this Balablublu made so much impact that one university used it to set exam question last semester. I don't know whether you have seen that.
I have seen it.
Okay, so this is just rear guard action, trying to mop it up. But whatever may have happened, it's all part of the entertainment side of this political season.
I'm telling you, he has introduced a new shade of blue in Nigeria now.
But as
you know
I said, you never know.
Yeah.
The APC presidential candidate may be multilingual, he may be a polyglot. So when things like this happen, they should go about with an interpreter who understands that special language so that, the electorate can better understand. But to think you can shout down other people just because you people have your own platform, no, that's not how it's done. They need to do a better job of communicating, of strategic management, of crisis management.
Absolutely. We'll take another story. The governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, who has been quite vocal on the controversy surrounding the CBN Naira redesign policy on Thursday, reacted to reports about the policy in a video that has now gone viral.
Got themselves a new king. The United Kingdom just got themselves a new king, King Charles. And they are changing their entire currency, from the coins to the notes. Will all now have the picture, not of Queen Elizabeth, that has been there for more than 70 years, but that of King Charles. But from now till the end of time, if you go to England with a pound note with Queen Elizabeth, will be accepted as legal tender and replaced with the new note. That is what every civilized country has done. Why is Nigeria doing this differently if there is no hidden agenda? Why are we expected to change 3 trillion in a matter of weeks? And then you print only 300 billion worth of notes.
Well, in this tweet that went viral yesterday, El-Rufai wrote, confirmed video. Yes, I, Nasiru El-Rufai, made the comment and stand by it. Those intent on improvising citizens through pea-brained policies of sabotage against our nation and democratic rights will not only fail, but will be held to account in this world and hereafter. So there. Well, author and activist Renaud Mockery took time out to debunk the claim. Let's take a look.
Malam Nasir El-Rufai, what he just said in that video which you watched is inaccurate. First and foremost, when one monarch dies and another monarch takes over, it's not a Naira or it's not a pound redesign. It's not a currency redesign. It just flows. It's what they call continuity. So it flows. It has nothing to do with redesign. However, the UK did redesign the £50 note and the £20 note. And, if you're watching me, you can just go on Google or you can go on whatever search engine you like and then research this. When they did that, they put a deadline, which was last year, 30th of September 2022. And then a week before that deadline, and you're going to see it up on the screen, the Bank of England actually issued a warning, a caveat, which was on television, on radio, and then on every media, warning people that they were not going to ship that deadline. And you're going to see it on the screen. In the United Kingdom, even the British Prime Minister cannot interfere with the Bank of England. The Council of the Exchequer, which is their version of the Minister of Finance, cannot interfere with the Bank of England.
Rufai, over to you.
Let's set the record straight on all of this. Nasir El-Rufai erred when he said that after the expiry date of the note, you can use it as a legal tender. It ceases to become a legal tender. You cannot tender it legally, for purchase or transaction. But Nasir El-Rufai was correct when he said that you can still return it and the bank will still mop it up. So what happened the last time was the UK changed the 20 and the 50 pound note to polymer notes. And when they did that, there was a cutoff point of the 30th. Then the old notes, which was the paper notes before now, ceased to be a legal tender after the 30th of September. But you can still take the notes into the Bank of England or via post to be able to obtain the new note if you had the former notes in the house. So I think that's the clarification there. But it was not necessary for Nasir El-Rufai to be saying, pea-brain policy and things like that. Those words are not good for a public official, because there's a contentious issue. You argue your point succinctly and intelligently, and you let it go.
Yeah,
but that's the clarification on this matter.
This whole Naira redesign policy has been trending. Dr. Abati, before I come to you, let me take this video of this woman that actually sprayed her own currency during an event in Lagos. Let's take a look. Well, Dr. Abati, I know that Naira plonking is illegal or is a crime. I mean, is this one too a crime? Is this Naira? I mean, this is her own currency, or is it illegal?
Well, one of the fallouts in recent times has been the attempt to test Section 21 of the CBN Act, which says clearly that you can't tamper with the national currency, you can't spray it, you can't flunk it. And the penalty is properly defined in Section 21, subsection 1. It says 6 months imprisonment or a fine not less than 50,000 naira, or a combination of both 6 months imprisonment and that 50,000 naira penalty. Now, somebody may well say they are not spending the Naira.
Yeah.
That, after all, is the Naira that the CBN was complaining about. And some people had even been arrested for spraying the new notes at parties. Well, that Section 21 is good that we may have the opportunity to test it. Why? Because the same CBN Act says the legal tender in Nigeria is called Naira, denominated in 100 kobo. And then in Section 17, it gives the CBN the sole authority to issue documents, notes, coins that shall be used as legal tender. If you go and print anything of your own, if you are not using it as legal tender, if it's monopoly money, it's okay. But if you try to use it as legal tender, then you may have run foul of the law. Because the operative word under Section 15, Section 17, and Section 21 is shall. And shall is obligatory. It means you cannot go and produce your own money and you are spending it in this territory called Nigeria. If the money is spent, and the musician collects it, will he go and change it to collect value? Okay? Or have they had a prior arrangement to use the Naira as backup for it? So these are the issues there. But you see again the thing we said about culture here.
Yeah.
People are so obsessed with spraying money, they say it's their culture. Even if it is fake money, they want to do it. Ironically, that's where we'll find ourselves.
Well, all right. Thank you, Dr. Abati, for that. Really appreciate it. Rufai, thank you both again for your great analysis on what's trending today. Well, that's all I have for you on what's trending today. I'll see you all next week.
And that's all on today's edition of The Morning Show. Rotus Odiri will be here next to take you through Global Business Report. Stay with us. It's TDRI's News Channel.
Let me tell you, no matter your poor background, PDP will give you the opportunity to be anything, to be whatever you want to become in your life.
Daso Samune, Atiku ya Samu, Waziri mu da shi da Okowa sune namu. Umpa an samu, Dana Samu. idan na samu kai ka samu kowa ya samu da so samu ne ku dangwala wa Atikun dai saboda ba wani shakka shugaban kasa shine daidai in fa an samu dala ta karye a cire tsoro a gyara tsaro bana dole mu warke da so samu ne a ce a rike tuta na tsawon minti 10 kuma ba wanda zai huta in fa an samu in fa an samu mene in fa an samu wani habawa to ku zaɓi Atiku